Okay, so I just recently got a new set of bookshelves here behind me that I personally am very excited about, and some folks on Instagram have been excited about that too, because over the last couple weeks, really on occasion I do this over the last couple years, but just more recently have been doing some occasional book recommendations, going in here, picking a book and talking about it a little bit, and I've been getting a lot of good feedback on that. So I thought today I could walk you guys through a handful of other books that I've been enjoying, talk to you a little bit about why I enjoy them, what they're about, and I think for anyone out there who's into the outdoors, hunting, fishing, conservation, these things might be of interest. So I got a handful. I already grabbed them. Let's get to it. Okay, so first we're going to start with the easy recommendations, ones that, of course, someone that watches, Wired Hunt video or listens to the Wired Hunt podcast, they're going to like. But just in case you haven't seen these books, I need to at least, bring them up because they are some of my favorites. And that would be any of these books written by Steven Rinella. He's written American Buffalo. He's written The Scavenger's Guide to Hawk Cuisine. He's written Meat Eater. And these are three of my very favorite books, all related to the outdoors, hunting, fishing, eating, all super interesting. Meat Eater is more about a collection of different experiences, both hunting and fishing, that have kind of colored Steve's world. But I'll talk about American Buffalo right now in a little more detail. It's a type of book I really enjoy, which is a story that is both narrative, a personal narrative, so it's a travelogue. It goes through Steve's hunt for a buffalo in Alaska, but it also is a historical or natural history narrative where you learn something about an animal or a landscape or an era. In this case, it is the story of the buffalo in North America and everything that's happened over the years, both pre-European contact, afterwards as Americans expanded across the country. Very, very interesting book, one of my favorites. So my first recommendation would simply be any of those three Rinella books. Can't go wrong with those. Now we're going to veer a little bit away from the expected now to something right here called The Encounters with the Druid by John Mcphee. And this book tells the story of a guy named David Brower. And David Brower at one point was the president, I believe, of the Sierra Club. And you might be wondering, the Sierra Club, while they do a lot for the environment, they've not necessarily been very pro-hunting in any way. So you might be wondering why I would recommend a story about him. And I recommend this because it takes a look at not just this person, but really it's an examination of the issue of environmental concerns and conservation, how we care about the natural world, and how do you balance that with development and resource extraction and how we humans inhabit the landscape. So John Mcphee is a masterful writer. Anything he writes is fascinating. He writes for the New Yorker, a bunch of things like that. And what he does here is he takes a look at three different experiences that he had with this character, David Brower, in which he pairs up Brower with someone on the other side of the spectrum. So in the first case, I think it's a geologist as they go explore this mountain range where there's a proposed mine. And he examines this clashing of sorts, or the different viewpoints between protection and development. And then he goes and does this on a rafting trip down the Grand Canyon. And it exposes you to, it forces you to think through this constant tension that's been there as long as humans have been around, but especially over the last 100, 150 years as we humans have started to think a little bit more about how we interact with the landscape, how we start conserving our natural world. There's always going to be this tension between protecting and conserving things versus using, developing, expanding. And that has been going on for a long, long time, and it's going to continue to go forward. And I think there are some very interesting lessons and thoughts that you can pick up by reading this book. It's beautifully written, and it's going to force you to think about some things that I think as a hunter or angler or outdoorsman that cares about the natural world, I think is valuable from that perspective. Third recommendation. Again, this is off the wall. This isn't your usual recommendation you're going to get on a hunting YouTube channel, but this book is called The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday. And this book is an examination of Stoic philosophy, basically ancient philosophers who first started thinking through some of the kind of high-level human challenges of existence and thinking through ways to act and to deal with these challenges. And so basically this book is all about how to deal with challenges, how to deal with obstacles, and the fact that obstacles, challenges, bumps in the road, those moments of adversity are actually what help us grow. They are actually what help us make who we are now today. They're actually, and here they talk about the obstacle is the way. There's a quote here by Marcus Aurelius, who was a Stoic, who said, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." So this book is full of examples, not just old philosophers, but actually examples of people, from recent history, presidents, businessmen, sports leaders, different people who have learned to take adversity and use it to their advantage. How you can perceive adversity, how you take action in the face of adversity, what you can learn from adversity. And I think as a hunter or an angler or anyone doing things out in the wild, we're going to have constant challenges thrown at us. I mean, I know as a deer hunter during a hunting season, there are endless things that can go wrong. There are so many things that are outside of our control that we're forced to deal with. And I think if you can look at those challenges as not this thing that's going to ruin your day or ruin your hunt or ruin your season, but look at it as something to learn from, to work through, and to move on from, I think you can A, achieve more success, B, enjoy your time more, and C, become just a more well-rounded hunter and person in general. And I think this book is just packed full of wisdom in that regard that I think is perfectly suited for what we do as serious deer hunters. If you're that kind of person watching the Wired Hunt channel, or if you're just an outdoorsman in general, there's so much to learn here. So those are my recommendations. Any of the Rinella books, Encounters of the Arc Druid by John Mcphee, and The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday. I think you'll find something interesting in any one of those options, and if you have read those, or if you read those and want to come back, leave us a comment. Let me know what you think about those books. If you have any other suggestions, we'd love to hear from you. I've got an entire bookshelf and several more in other rooms of the house packed full of different books I've enjoyed. I want to continue talking about them, sharing these books, because I think, number one, reading is so important yet so underrated these days with all the other forms of media pulling at our attention. So I think that taking time to read and learn ideas and go into these new worlds can just be so valuable. So I want to encourage that. And number two, just selfishly, I love books. I love talking about them. I love bringing books to people's attention that they might value or find value in. So that's what I'm going to do. Let me know what you think. More to come soon.